All right, I'm not gonna lie. Lately, it's been feeling like the gaming industry is, I would say total chaos, but total chaos is like the wrong word phrase to use. If you're a subscriber to the doomer mindset, then total chaos is what it is. But I would kind of put it more so as like a metamorphosis or a great change, or we're in a timeline event moment, a canon event moment for the gaming industry. Everything that's been going on lately, studios shutting down, mass layoffs, streamers and content creators talking about how gaming is cooked, stuff like that. A lot of people were saying it's like the end times for gaming, you know. Like I said, that doomer mentality is running hard right now. A lot of people are saying gaming is cooked, this is the end of gaming, but I just think we're in a time right now where we're kind of watching it like evolve or change, maybe even reset. You know what I'm saying? I want to talk about some things, here's on my mind, have some discussion, because you know we're all about discussions over here. Let's get into it. So I wanted to start off first just by kind of going over like a little bit of like some background and like kind of just getting to a point where I feel like why we're kind of here right now. So obviously it's 2025, right? I think we are coming out of that like 2019 to like 2021, 2022. That like COVID boom was really, that was like another like canon event, timeline changing event for gaming as a whole. Probably one of the main concepts that made like gaming and stuff like that, I'd say like pretty mainstream. Like gaming was big but still pretty niche before then, you know, unless you were a gamer specifically or like on Twitch or YouTube and you were like into that type of stuff, into that type of content. Like more often than not, you just like, oh yeah, it's the nerds, it's what they do, right? But then like when COVID hit, literally everybody and their grandmother was gaming in some shape or form. Whether you were a mobile gamer, you were playing Among Us, you know, you were playing Warzone, Fortnite, whatever, everybody was gaming. And during that time, obviously we saw you know, large player increases, large money increases. I think a lot of the big companies, the AAA space companies, they like really doubled down on that, tried to ride that wave as long as they could, or even like increase it, which might be the root of why we're seeing things we're seeing now for like the last couple years. And we're talking about a bunch of stuff like, you know, big investments, inflated expectations, risky expansions. That lockdown period definitely saw a big sort of inflation of where the gaming numbers actually realistically would be, I'd say. And yeah, like I say, that we're in that time period now where that like that bubble is popping or popped. I don't like, obviously I'm not like an industry insider or anything like that. I'm just a guy that likes to yap about certain things, but from what it seems like, it seems like one of those time periods where that like at least that lockdown bubble is popped, you know. For 90% of things, we're back to normal, you know. All the gamers are still here gaming. There's probably some new ones who have stayed since the lockdown, but more reasons or not, we're pretty much kind of getting back to where we are. And a lot of these like big companies have to kind of deal with the fallout of their investments to try to make gaming continue to be the biggest thing or ride the increasing revenue shares and stuff like that. And you'll hear a lot of people talk about how like a lot of this is to keep the corporate suits happy and things like that, and I also kind of subscribe to that a bit as well, but only to a certain degree, right? I think for sure in like the AAA space, you're definitely seeing that a lot, right? And this only gets kind of put more into perspective with things like recently with like all the Microsoft layoffs and stuff like that. Microsoft has probably been like the biggest sort of, I don't want to say like proponent of this, but probably from like 2023 to now, they've been in the headlines a lot about their layoffs. I mean, I think this year alone in 2025, they laid off like 10,000 people. I think 2023 or 2024, it was like another like 5,000 or so, especially with like other studio closures and stuff like that. I mean, that stuff's been covered a gajillion times, right? But like Microsoft isn't the only one. Just so PlayStation, Sony's had layoffs. I think Nintendo's done like a couple things as well. And then obviously in a lot of like EA, Ubisoft, stuff like that, like a lot of the big dogs of the golden gen of games and stuff like that, they're definitely feeling the gut punch of maybe over expanding or overproducing, whatever it may be. Like I said, I don't know, but we're definitely feeling the gun punch of that. That only kind of increases the talking points of like, is gaming cooked type of scenario. Especially if you're in like the FPS space, you hear this a lot, bro. There's no new games, there's no good games, all the games that we play are the same, yada yada yada, right? As someone who plays a lot of stuff, I've never subscribed to this because, like, again, if Call of Duty's ass, I'll just play Forza. If I'm not having fun with Forza, I'll go play Shredders or Skate or Civ or Stellaris, or I'll go play a single player game, you know, like this. There's way too many games we playing, and I'll jump into that a little bit as well, right? But kind of going back to what I was talking about, it kind of feeds that like doomer narrative of, is gaming cooked? I wanted to talk about that as well because a clip of like Tim the Tatman has been going around a lot, talking about how essentially, not like him saying gaming is cooked, but essentially him saying like the era of like gaming being the biggest thing on really like Twitch and like the live stream platforms is like over, right? And how that's essentially being beat out by IRL content. I would say in that scenario, I agree as well. Like if you look on Twitch right now, like I think just chatting IRL is like literally the biggest category by like view counts. Obviously your like top echelon games like CSGO, League of Legends, stuff like that are like the close trail dogs, right? But the thing that gaming has that like IRL kind of doesn't have, and you can argue one way or the other, but gaming is just like super diverse, bro. It's super diverse. It's like super diverse, like has its own little like niches and communities, and also there's not a lot of crossover like how there is in like IRL type stuff, you know? Like when it comes to IRL stuff, obviously the substance of what they're doing IRL is like important, but also it's not as much. A lot of times it's like just a person, which is why you see people like AMP, FaZe, you know, like all these like super huge like IRL streamer types. Like they could essentially do whatever the fuck and like just pull a bunch of people because people are just here to vibe, they're here to see what's going on, whatever, they're here for the person, right? Usually in the gaming space, I'd say it's a lot easier nowadays, but for the longest time it was like, bro, you have to be doing one thing and then like stick to that one thing. If you like did variety or like kind of just did whatever or became a personality, it would just be forever for you to like essentially grow or have success in the space, especially for like streaming. I think YouTube is like, it was a little easier, but still the general rule of thumb was like, hey, if you're going to do variety, you better expect to like have slow growth because people are only going to stick around for so much, right? So there's like always kind of been like a push-pull effect with like IRL versus gaming. And the point with this is like IRL has like kind of always been around, especially on Twitch. I know a lot of people make the argument that like Twitch is like a gaming like platform, or it was like originally made for like gaming platform. But IRL has kind of like always been there. I think even way back to like the Justin TV days where you could like stream IRL stuff. And it's kind of, for me, I kind of treat it like a yin and yang of like live streaming, right? Mainly as like a gamer, like I'm primarily like, if I'm on Twitch all the time pretty much right now, and even then when I'm on Twitch, I mainly watch gaming content. I am not like an IRL watcher. If someone's doing IRL stuff, it's because like I'm here for that person, but they normally play games, right? Or they're just like one of the, dare I say, A-list streamers or whatever the fuck. And this is stuff like a Senna, you know, like, or like a Duke Dennis, you know, that type of stuff. Like other than that, I'm not really watching too many IRL people's. If I'm seeing their stuff, it's like from clips on the internet or whatever the fuck, right? But more often than not, most of the people I'm watching on a daily basis, 90% of the time, they're playing a game or doing something. Or like maybe like if like a Jinxie did like an IRL like stream or something like that, or like an Iron Mouse did like an IRL stream or something like that, you know what I'm saying? There's got to be like some crossover there that's like relevant to the gamer peeps or like whatever's going on, right? So yeah, I always feel like there's some like good like push-pull effect happening, and we just might be in a scenario right now where like IRL is just like more was popping. we could easily have another scenario where like another Marvel Rivals, or like maybe next year like GTA 6, or like there has to be like some big kind of boom or like central game that like everybody's kind of playing that brings all that like focus back to gaming, you know what I'm saying? Because if you look at like if you are in gaming, you know like what's kind of popping, but it might just not be like mainline popping, if you can kind of get what I'm saying, right? Like when Warzone was the main thing, when Fortnite was like the main thing, when like Among Us was the main thing, you know, it's like when anybody who's anybody and everybody is playing it and streaming it, it's like everybody's there, all the eyes are there, right? But then once that's gone, everyone's going to go back to their little corners of the gaming world, you know. All CS people are not going to watch Fortnite, all Valorant people aren't going to watch Call of Duty, all Halo people aren't going to watch Battlefield, you know. There might be a little bit of crossover here and there, but it's just, you know, it's not that much, you know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, you're going to go back to like, it's going to like separate a little bit. It's kind of like yeah, this is gonna be like a weird kind of analogy scenario, but like I look at gaming kind of like Exodia from Yu-Gi-Oh! Like individually it's like whatever, you know what I'm saying? It's like you might consider one piece like stronger than the other, but individually is whatever. But then like if there's one big thing that brings it all together, it's like, whoa, what's happening here? Everybody, it's like it's grabbing you and forcing you to look. That's kind of how I feel about like mainly streaming games, you know, stuff like that. But again, that kind of adds to the point of like, is gaming cooked? And I'd say I would kind of agree with that point, but not the blanket statement, right? Yes, gaming isn't like the main shebang shaboom right now. That's not to say it won't be like that next year, the year after, whatever, right? It's just kind of taking a little back seat right now, which I think has kind of always been something that gaming does. Sometimes it's at the forefront, sometimes it's like the thing that you do. And I think even gamers who like don't like stream or watch stuff can like relate to that. Like sometimes if gaming is your thing, sometimes it's like not the thing you're doing, sometimes it's something else, you know, and then gaming is like the backup thing that you're doing, and then it comes to the main front, you know. I've had that be a thing for me a couple of times, you know, like I DJ, I try to produce music, I dance, I just do a bunch of other like music related stuff, and sometimes gaming isn't like the main thing. Or even like when I do like streaming or YouTube stuff, like sometimes I don't touch the game like the entire day. I'm just like editing or doing video stuff, and like gaming just like the thing that I'm doing for an hour or two at the end of the day, right? I can see where the discourse comes from, and it only gets added to that point when if you're in the weeds of gaming and you see like how the bubble is essentially popping at like the upper level AAA space and stuff like that, and all these mass layoffs, and you're seeing all these news, it only adds to that narrative of like, oh, it's over, you know, the boat is sinking, pull out the violin or jump off while you can, right? But then if you really look at it, like again, this is why it helps to like kind of be well rounded as a gamer, because yeah, the AAA space might be like really rocky underwater right now, but then you begin to look at these like these AA indie games, right? And they're having a real, I would say, resurgence. Some people would say it's always been popping, but like what with AAA bleeding and like I don't want to say dying because that's like a little too harsh, but like with the focus becoming less of like what's happening on AAA games, the indie and AA games have really started to rise up and like take a little bit of that space, right? And I'll talk about games like Balatro, Lives of P, like Blueprints, Peak, Baldur's Gate, Expedition 33. Like these are only a few of those games, but some of these games are like essentially game of the year contenders, and they're like a third of like the budget manpower that like some of these big AAA studios are using to make these games, right? I mean, I think one of the whole like marketing slogans behind Expedition 33 was like, it's literally made by like 33 people. Just like when you compare that to, I think like a Bungie or an EA, I mean like a Bungie or a DICE or like a Sledgehammer Treyarch, like Infinity Ward, where it's like hundreds, if not like close to 1,000 developers and stuff like that. It's like the bloat is definitely real in a lot of those scenarios, and a lot of these like smaller, nimble, a lot of these smaller teams have the ability to like really get super creative and super risky, because again, their process to make the game is not even half. Again, sometimes it's a quarter, sometimes it's a third of like what these big companies are doing to make games, right? And they're really good. You know what I'm saying? For me right now, the game of the year for me, Expedition 33, that motherfucker's up there. I love that game. I played that game so much. I got lost in that game so long, bro. Such a great time. This is the type of stuff that if you're like in the weeds of gaming, or like if you have your ear to the ground, you know these things are popping and like people are having a good time with them. And then it also comes at the back of like, you know, some people are just looking for change, you know. Some people need that new thing to play, and for a long time these like indies and double A's wouldn't get the shine that they needed. But now that we have stuff like, you know, Steam Next Fest and like even like Game Pass and stuff like that, giving these games a chance to like be put to the forefront of people's faces, and like maybe like a few big streamers or whatever like actually playing them, or like even just like the word of mouth being like really good and really consistent at this point, helps with that scenario as well. All this does is add to the scenario of like, whoa, what do I play? Or like what is there to play? You know what I'm saying? And I've seen this go around a couple times as well. Like I was on TikTok earlier, and this one dude was like, I'm looking for a game to play. I feel like there's nothing to play right now. And he was like, I mainly play Call of Duty, and that just triggered everybody. Like literally every comment was like, well, that makes so much sense. All you do is play Call of Duty, so you're like, it don't matter. You know what I'm saying? It's like, to a certain degree, yeah. It's like if all you do is play Call of Duty, if all you do is play shooters, yeah, to you it might be like, fuck, well, it ain't nothing to play. You know what I'm saying? But if you do a little bit of everything, there's too much to play sometimes. I mean, I look at my own sort of scenario right now, right? Like I still haven't finished Doom. I want to finish Doom. You know, I still dabble in Halo. I still dabble in COD. I still dabble in Battlefield. A rematch is kind of taking over my life a little bit. You know, I'm to the finals, Fortnite. You know, I'll jump on Marvel Rivals from time to time. Hunt Showdown, like a whole bunch of games. You know what I'm saying? Star Wars Battlefront's remaking a resurgence. You know, The Division, Destiny, whatever, right? And those are just like games that like I have kind of in like a basic rotation, and that's already way too much to be playing, right? And I say it all the time, bro. I say it all the time, bro. Way too many games, not enough time, bro. And I think in today's world, that's a great problem to have. It's too much choice versus not enough. You know, I think the last time that like realistically you didn't have like choice like this, it's probably when you were like a kid, because you couldn't afford it, or like there wasn't any avenues to have as many games. You know, a lot of these games are free nowadays to play, you know. Shit, back when damn, that makes you kind of sound old, but back when I was a kid, no free to play games was not like that. You know, you might play like a Castle Miner Z or like a Doritos Crash Course or something like that. And I'm not saying those games aren't good or great. I played the fuck out those games, but those games just don't compare to like a Fortnite or an Apex, you know. Even if like you get to a point where it's like, yeah, where I want to look cool, I want the latest stuff, it's like, yeah, that's fine, but you still have a big kick-ass game to play that's free. Like it literally costs you nothing but time. So I think that's like something that a lot of people sort of overlook, and especially nowadays with stuff like with Game Pass, PS Plus, you know, these Steam sales that make games dirt cheap. There's games coming out all the time, you know, all kinds of stuff happening, bro. It's just like the sheer amount of games and good games that we have to play, you can't beat that at all, bro. And then speaking of which, I also think kind of for me specifically, why I think there's like it's like more of a shift that's happening right now, sort of two reasons, right? First and foremost, there is a big change in like habit of gamers, right? Kind of going back to that like way too many games to play, right? Pretty much everything is vying for like your attention right now. And I'd say if you're like given like the most hardcore gamer, I'm talking like 6 to like 10 hours a day, or maybe a day. Yeah, let's say like 6 to 10 hours a day, right? More often than not, they're gonna be in one of like two camps. They either have one game that they play the fuck out of all the time, or they play like 2 to 3 main games, right? And then maybe dabble in like a little bit like here and there. And when you have stuff like, I mean, let's just keep it like simple. You have like a CS:GO or like a WoW or like a Fortnite or like a Roblox. Like these are games that people will just burn, shave down to the core, and there's still more to go. Right? You can put so much time into these games and not play literally anything else, right? It definitely takes a lot to get people to like move from, dare I say, their safe space of games, you know? Because at the end of the day, it's like if something comes out, let's say like you play Fortnite, right? And a new battle royale game comes out. You might dabble into it and touch it, and if it doesn't hold you, you'll probably just go right back to Fortnite. You know what I'm saying? Like it's gonna be there, you know, it's great. Yeah, I'll just go back to that. You know what I'm saying? So that's like one sort of thing for sure. And then again, with the rise of like with like the way that we watch content and stuff like that, with like clips and like IRL content and like YouTube content, a lot of stuff is surrounded around like reaction content, compilation stuff, right? It honestly kind of takes away from that like mainline gaming experience, right? Why would I like spend all this time on a game if I'm going to watch my IRL streamer for like 3 hours or 4 hours do the thing, or I'm going to watch someone else like react to the stuff that's happening? You know what I'm saying? Like consumer habits are definitely different from like 2004 to like 2015, where it's like, hey, you know, this game's gonna come out, the midnight release is gonna happen, we're gonna play it, it's gonna get a couple DLCs, yada yada yada, right? That is not the case right now. The game's $60, you gonna pay the $60, that's your game? Nope. I'm gonna pay that $20 for Game Pass and I'm gonna play it. I might buy it, you know what I'm saying? Or if it come around on Steam and get it on sale, I'll buy it, whatever, right? Yeah, so it's definitely just like an interesting sort of scenario to look at too, where like people are just like playing and using these things different than how they usually do as well. And lastly, kind of just like goes to my last point, where it was like, yeah, I just feel like the industry itself is like sort of shifting. We're not in like a scenario in like, I think it was like the 80s or like the late 80s, early 90s or something like that, where like the scene is like literally dying, like nothing is coming out, you can't buy shit type of scenario. Like I think like back in the day, like they were like literally shutting down arcade machines and stuff like that, no games were coming out. Like we are very much far away from that. Like we're on the way opposite end of that, where it's like, bro, I have no idea what I want to play today, but everyone's saying get on Fortnite, so I'm gonna get on Fortnite, fuck it, you know what I'm saying? Or I don't know what I'm gonna play today and someone's doing a IRL subathon, so I'm gonna go watch that. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's just way too easy to just like do whatever else. And then now we have more scenarios where like players are more vocal than ever, you know, people have more, I'd say more agency, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I'd look at stuff like the review bombing method, you know, that's not patched yet. That's pretty vocal. Obviously still got like Reddit, Twitter, stuff like that. People, I mean, voting with your wallet, voting with your time, stuff like that. Like there's been a lot of games that come out that's been worked on for 6+ years, that's cost X amount of millions of dollars, and it's came out and flopped because no one bought it or played it. So it's like, so for me personally, like the future for gaming might not necessarily be like bigger, but it might just be more well refined, which I don't think is a bad thing. You know, I think it'd be real crazy. It'd have to be something catastrophic probably for us to get back to that like lockdown era of gaming, where literally 9 out of every 10 people are playing the game in some capacity. I'd say we're probably at like 5 or 6 out of every 10 people are gamers, probably, right? It'd be pretty crazy if we get back to that. I don't know how you do that without literally forcing everyone inside, right? But yeah, I don't know. Again, it kind of comes back to what I was saying, you know, with the state of the industry and stuff like that. I don't think gaming is dying. I don't think gaming is cooked. I think it's definitely changing for the better, for worse. Only time will tell. But Hey, it's one of those growth periods, bro, where it's gonna be kind of bullshit for a little bit, but I'd say this is the best kind of bullshit to be in, because you at least still got stuff to play. You at least still got stuff to play, and sometimes it's way too much. But I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you think gaming is cooked? Do you think we're just going through a canon event right now? Please, I would love to chat. Let me know. If you enjoyed the video, please sure to leave it a like. If you want to see more of your boy, hit them buttons down below, all that good stuff, and I'll catch y'all in the next one.